This is a famous face in the crowd, a picture taken by photographer Heinrich Hoffmann at a rally in Munich in August 1914. Historians have studied the picture and suggest that Hitler was actually superimposed to lend credibility to his image as a patriot and man of the people. Academics have also questioned its authenticity based on the size of his moustache. This is what it looked like later in the First World War, before he allegedly had to trim it to fit under a gas mask. But here's another face in a crowd. This picture was taken on the 13th of June 1936, when Adolf Hitler attended the launch ceremony of the naval training vessel Horst Wessel at the Blohm and Voss shipyard in Hamburg. But this man sits with folded arms and has made quite a name for himself as a man who refused to conform and has been named as August Landmesser. August Landmesser was born on the 24th of May 1910 near Hamburg. He was the only child of German Aryan parents August Franz Landmesser and Wilhelmina Magdalena, maiden name Schmidtpott. Together with other maternal relatives, August joined the Nazi Party in 1931. He hoped this would enable him to get a job. He was a member of the party until 1935. But in October 1934, he'd met Irma Eckler and planned to marry her. But first they had to deal with the upcoming anti-Semitic Nuremberg laws, adopted unanimously by the Reichstag on the 5th of September 1935. The two Nuremberg laws were the law for the protection of German blood and German honour, which forbade marriages and extramarital intercourse between Jews and Germans, and the Reich citizenship law, which declared that only those of German or related blood could be Reich citizens. Irma Eckler's mother, Friederike Horneburg, was the daughter of Jews John Horneburg and his wife Johanna Fleiss, descendants of Sephardic Jews who had emigrated from Spain in the 15th century. Arthur Eckler, her father, was the son of Jewish mother Rosalie Samuel and non-Jewish father Karl Eckler, hence mixed race or Mischling, first grade. Arthur Eckler married Friederike on the 24th of March 1905 and they moved to Hamburg. Irma was born in Hamburg on the 12th of June 1913. She also had two older sisters, Herta and Lily, both more than 10 years her senior. Even before 1935, Frau Eckler was in financial trouble when her Aryan husband moved away. They were eventually divorced in December 1931, and in March 1932, Frau Eckler married Ernst Graumann, another non-Jew, and she and the three girls were all baptized as Protestants. Irma's older sisters, Herta and Lily, married non-Jews before 1935, and as children were born to these couples, their marriages were designated as privileged mixed marriages. Irma, on the other hand, still single in 1935, admitted confusion about her racial designation, but according to the Nuremberg laws, she wasn't even a Mischling. With three Jewish grandparents, she was a Jew, and marriage to an Aryan, i.e. August, was not only forbidden, it was race defilement. Rassenschande, or race defilement, was an early concept in Nazi Germany's racial policy, targeting sexual relations between Aryans and non-Aryans. It was put into practice by the Nuremberg laws, but as this picture of the public humiliation of Adele Edelman and Oscar Dankner shows, it was already happening in 1933. This is a similar humiliation for Christine Neumann and Julius Wolff in a small town in East Friesland in northern Germany. East Friesland seemed particularly keen to identify their race shamers, and here an anonymous victim is marched through another town in the area. But it wasn't just East Friesland, and here Julius Rosenberg and Elisabeth Makowiak are paraded through the streets of Gelsenkirchen in West Germany, and their pictures were printed in the local papers. And the shaming carried on throughout the Holocaust. This lady is being expelled from her community for some unspecified offence as late as 1942. Timing is everything, and when August Landmesser and Irma Eckler wanted to marry in August 1935, even though the Nuremberg law for the protection of German blood and German honour would not come into effect until the 15th of September that year, their bans were not accepted by the Register Office because Irma was Jewish. Paragraph 1, Section 1 stated that marriages between Jews and subjects of German or kindred blood are forbidden. Marriages nevertheless concluded are invalid, even if they are concluded abroad to circumvent this law. And so, because Irma Eckler was forced by Nazi law to remain single, her first daughter Ingrid, born on the 29th of October 1935, was illegitimate. August nonetheless acknowledged paternity, and she was baptized as a Protestant. It was the next year that the famous shipyard photograph was taken in Hamburg. It's believed at the launch of the training ship Horst Wessel. Horst Wessel, best known for being made into a Nazi martyr by Joseph Goebbels after his murder by two communists in 1930, was a Berlin leader of the Nazi Party's stormtroopers, the Sturmabteilung or SA. Wessel's funeral was given wide attention in Berlin, with many of the Nazi elite in attendance. A march he had written lyrics to was renamed the Horst Wessel Lied and became the official anthem of the Nazi Party, later sharing top billing with Deutschland über alles. But we digress. On the 12th of June 1937, Irma celebrated her 24th birthday, and on the very same day, the head of security police issued a secret directive which stated that, in the case of Rassenschande between a German male and a Jewish female, she is to be taken into protective custody immediately after legal proceedings have been completed. The term protective custody was misleading. The intent was not to protect women from the wrath of the people. The intent was criminal imprisonment. The walls were closing in, and at the beginning of July 1937, August Landmesser tried secretly to leave Hamburg for Denmark to find work, planning for Irma to join him later. The plan failed, and he was arrested on the 28th of July 1937 and sent to Fuhlsbüttel prison in Hamburg. From prison on the 3rd of August 1937, he entered a plea for clemency, saying he was worried about supporting two children, for in August 1937, Irma was now expecting her second child. The child, Irene, was born on the 6th of August 1937 and recorded as Mozarisch or Jewish. So, on the 15th of September 1937, a warrant was issued against August on the charge of Rassenschande. At his trial, he said he had thought Irma was half Jewish. This picture was taken for August, who is in prison. On the back was written, "I hope you will like this photo. It's just been taken. So once again, best wishes and kisses, your Irma Mama." August was acquitted on the 27th of May 1938 on the grounds of insufficient evidence, and so that secret Gestapo directive of 1937 could not be implemented as his race shaming had not yet been proven. He was warned that a repeat allegation would result in a multi-year prison sentence, and he was ordered to end his relationship. But the parents met up again, and on this occasion the only existing photo of the entire family was taken. It was also the last one showing the mother with her two daughters. Because he'd returned to Irma, therefore committing further Rassenschande, on the 15th of July 1938, August Landmesser was rearrested. This time he was found guilty and was sentenced to 2.5 years in prison. He was sent to Borgermoor prison camp in Emsland in the north of Germany. From 1933 until 1938, the Nazis had 15 camps built in the Emsland, a remote wasteland area near the border with the Netherlands. The camps had a terrible reputation among all prisoners who were used for labour in armament factories, shipyards, and in the marshy areas of North Germany. August's conviction also set into motion the previous secret edict of June 1937 targeting female race shamers, and 3 days after his arrest, Irma Eckler was picked up by the Gestapo. No record of her arrest has been found, but she was in the Fuhlsbüttel police cells from the 18th until the 29th of July 1938, and in the city of Hamburg remand prison from the 20th until the 23rd of October 1938. The children were sent to the municipal orphanage because in 1938 children were not yet deported with their mothers. Their grandmother, Frederica, was denied custody of the children, but her new Aryan husband Ernst managed to get Ingrid released into his care. Irene stayed in the orphanage. Irma was sent to various internment camps. From Hamburg she was initially sent to the Oranienburg Sachsenhausen concentration camp, but then on to the fortress at Lichtenburg. This identity card proves that she was held prisoner in Lichtenburg, which in 1937 had become the first all-women concentration camp. Practically nothing is known of its history before it was closed down in May 1939. A surviving list of prisoner numbers simply shows that in the 18 months it was open, 1,415 women were admitted, and Irma's prisoner number 1021 was issued on the 9th of September 1938. On the 15th of May 1939, the 800 female inmates were transferred to the newly built women's concentration camp at Ravensbrück, second only in size to the women's camp in Auschwitz-Birkenau. In Ravensbrück, Irma Eckler was given the KZ number 928/574, the 928 from Lichtenburg, the 574 from Ravensbrück. The work of the T4 euthanasia program in killing disabled and old people is well known, but the murder for political and nonconformist reasons is often overlooked. Under the so-called Special Treatment 14F13, racially targeted prisoners and those no longer able to work were killed by carbon monoxide in gas chambers signposted as showers. Irma was sent to the Bernburg Euthanasia Centre and murdered there on the 28th of April 1942. In Bernburg alone, by March 1943, about 5,000 prisoners, almost all Jewish, from Buchenwald, Flossenburg, Gross-Rosen, Neuengamme, Ravensbrück and Sachsenhausen concentration camps were killed. This is Irma's death certificate. She was recorded as death number 999 in 1942 in Ravensbrück, but she did not die in Ravensbrück. On the 28th of April 1942, she was murdered by gas in Bernburg. August was released on the 19th of January 1941. He worked for a branch of the Heinkel aircraft factory in Warnemünde, and after Irma's death got engaged to a Russian woman called Sonia Paschenko. August contacted his daughters and introduced Sonia to them in 1943, but the family was never reunited. In February 1944, August was drafted into a penal battalion, the 999th Fortress Infantry Battalion, formed in October 1942 from criminals and prison inmates deemed unfit for military service. They were encouraged to volunteer on the promise that all past crimes could be wiped out by exemplary bravery in combat. August was reported killed in action in Croatia on the 17th October 1944. August's eldest child, Ingrid, was born before the Nuremberg laws went into effect, so she was classified as Mischling. She escaped much of the anti-Jewish persecution of the Nazi era and was able to stay with her maternal grandmother until adulthood. The grandmother, now Mrs. Friederike Graumann, had a weak heart, and at age 58 she felt a young, lively child would be more than she could cope with, so she wanted to find foster parents for Ingrid. Ingrid noticed what her grandmother was up to, and when potential foster mothers wanted to see how well she could walk, she assumed a clumsy gait and threw her legs about, so that the women lost all interest in her. Ingrid's younger sister, Irene, born in 1937, was classified as a Jew, which meant she was eventually subject to carrying an ID card and wearing a yellow star at all times. After a period in an orphanage where she suffered physical abuse, Irene was taken in by a foster family named Krause in 1940 and then by the Proskauer family in 1941. After the war, the Proskauers never officially adopted Irene, and turmoil in the family caused her to move in and out of orphanages until she eventually contacted her sister Ingrid. When she was over 50, Irene, born in 1937, wrote about her past and the Landmesser family's tragic history under the Nazi regime in A Family Torn Apart by Rassenschande. And it was at this point that Irene said that the man in the photo was her father. But was he? That August and Irma were victims of Nazi bigotry and violence is not in question, but August may not be the man with folded arms. When the picture surfaced, because people were curious about who this worker could be, the Hamburger Abendblatt appealed to its readers in November 1995, hoping that someone could identify the worker. One reader, Wolfgang Wegert, was convinced that this was his father Gustav, born in 1890, who worked as a metal worker for Blohm and Voss at the exact time that the picture was taken. He had his father's employment certificate, and both his parents and many friends had told him that Gustav, a devout Christian, never raised his arm for the Nazi salute. If someone greeted him with Heil Hitler, he answered with the simple Guten Tag. So what do you think? The earliest claim was for August Landmesser, and he has a much better backstory. He was imprisoned. He got caught up in the race laws. His wife was euthanized. His children were taken away from him. He died after being drafted into a punishment battalion. Gustav Wegert, meanwhile, was a Christian objector who prayed against Hitler. There's no competition in narrative terms, but the identity is still in question.